welcome to Kings Point Spotlight. I'm Lieutenant Tyrone Broxton, and today I have the pleasure of being joined in the Dean and Barbara White Admission Center with Commander Jonathan Spaner. Commander Spaner is a 1993 graduate of the United States Merchant Marine Academy, where he majored in marine transportation. Sir, thank you so much for joining us here today on Kings Point Spotlight.
Thanks for having me, Lieutenant Broxton. I really appreciate it.
Now, as I always like to do, first thing first, give a shout out back to your high school and your hometown. Let everybody know where you're from.
That's great. My high school is in Brookfield, Connecticut. Brookfield High School, the Bobcats, and I hope you're all doing well up there.
All right. Now, we have a lot to cover, but first let's touch on your time here at the Academy. How did you first learn at Kings Point, and why did you accept your appointment?
Well, I had known ever since, I'd say freshman year in high school, about all the different academies. And there was a member of the class in high school ahead of me who went to Kings Point. And I kept in touch with him, and I saw all the opportunities he had, and that led me into to be interested in Kings Point.
Okay.
So,
now, were you accepted to any other academies, any other elite institutions?
I was accepted to other schools like that, to private military schools. I had ROTC scholarships, so there were some good options on the table. But what was special about Kings Point is that, frankly, at 17, 18 years old, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do besides serve somewhere in the military and be a leader. And I knew I had a penchant for the Coast Guard, but I didn't want to close any doors at that age. So Kings Point, I knew, would give me those options.
Okay. Now, attending a service academy is not your typical college experience, quite obviously. What was your experience like here? What were some of the things that you liked? What were some of the things that you didn't like?
Well, I think in terms of being busy, if you like to be busy and you like to learn and you want to grow as a leader, as an officer, as a productive member of society, as a role model, all those things will happen here. Things that you don't like, I mean, sometimes the food isn't that good. That's got better with time.
Yes.
It's very strict, so you're not going to come and go as you please. And there's a lot of studying. They're going to challenge you to explore your vulnerabilities, but that's all just to make you a better person.
Absolutely. Now, what about your extracurricular activities? What are the different types of things that you were involved with here, from sports to clubs, and then obviously the regiment?
Candidly, I focused really hard on academics because with my background, economically, I didn't have many options, quite candidly, and I wanted to make the most out of what was given to me. So I spent most of my time studying, and when I needed a break, I would go and jog long distances by myself just to unwind. And then when I became a first-classman, I became involved with the regimental system. Was eventually the regimental commander of the school.
Okay. And how did that process work? How were you nominated for that position, and what were some of your responsibilities while you were regimental commander?
I'll paraphrase as I recall. I was nominated at some point. I can remember the company officers telling me that you're a good leader and your grade point average can take the hit that it's going to take from being the regimental commander. I think before that I was a regimental executive officer. So ultimately the superintendent makes that decision, and I was installed once they did that.
Okay. Now, in reference to you being regimental commander, did that assist you in the early going of what has become an impressive career in the Coast Guard?
I think so, without a question, because as the regimental commander, I felt, because of the superintendent and the senior leadership of the academy at the time, I felt truly empowered to serve as the leader of the institution, the leader of the student body. And at that age, at 21 or 22 years old, somewhere in that ballpark, to have 900 people under you and to live in that spotlight and to help inspire people that are coming up behind you and to deal with the public was a great experience. So it certainly helped me once I was commissioned.
Okay. Now, one of the coolest aspects of the academy is the sea year, traveling around the world. Where were some of the places that you traveled to during your sophomore and junior year?
Oh, I traveled all over. I went to the west coast of South America, and you're moving cargo. While I was there, I always made a point to get dinner in the cities we visited. So Colombia, Ecuador, Panama, Peru. I visited all those. Costa Rica, Central America, Mexico, and then I spent a lot of time in the Caribbean on tankers, and then I went over to Europe. I can recall going to Spain, Italy, and France on a container ship. It was a wonderful experience.
If you had to pick one country that was, I guess, your favorite, which one would it be, if you can recall?
Well, I'm biased. It would be the United States.
Okay, all right, that sounds good. Good answer.
I'm a big fan of our country, but I enjoy the history of South America. I enjoy the culture of Europe, and I'm just fascinated with the plight of the people in the Caribbean, and how much they care about their future in our country, and what good partners they are all throughout the Caribbean. So they each have their advantages, but first and foremost, I'm an American, and I always will be.
Right. Now, during that time, you mentioned some cargo ships. Did you travel aboard any other types of ships?
I was on container ships, tankers, which carry, like super tankers, which carry oil and petroleum. I was on what's called a ro-ro ship. It was a crawler ship where we rolled on and rolled off containers. And I was on a collier, which is a ship that carries coal. That's a pretty dirty ship, but a fun ship.
Okay.
So.
All right, great. Now, did that experience serve you well in your current capacity as an officer for the United States Coast Guard, sailing around the world, becoming a mariner in training while you were a student?
Absolutely. You're as a cadet on merchant ships, you're immersed in the private sector, and you're on your own truly with adults who are making a living. So. You learn from the officers on the ship. You're going to deal with challenges. You're going to have to ensure you're responsible when you go ashore and visit the ports and things like that. So there's no question and probably more than anything else, seeing how people live in other parts of the world was probably the most valuable and influential part of that experience for me.
Okay. Now, it's no secret that at the Merchant Marine Academy, one can choose any branch of service upon graduation. For those of you who don't know, okay, we reiterate that constantly. How and when did you choose the United States Coast Guard Academy during your process here with us?
Fairly early on, because I did an internship with the Coast Guard. I grew up in Connecticut, so I was aware of the Coast Guard Academy. And the reason I chose the Coast Guard and applied to the Coast Guard for commissioning was that what appealed to me personally, and of course everybody's going to be different, but that they had an everyday real-world mission. So in the Coast Guard, we don't spend time reconstituting or building up battalions and things like that. We operate every single day. So every day as a pilot in the Coast Guard, I'd have the chance maybe to save a life, or to stop drugs from reaching our shorelines, or to protect our borders, or to stop terrorism. And those things just appealed to me in a great way. So it was the everyday mission that I really wanted to be part of.
Now, what exactly do? You just mentioned being a pilot in the Coast Guard. A lot of kids aren't under the impression that they can fly when they leave this institution, get a flight spot in various branches of service, because we're training them to sail aboard ships.
Absolutely. All the branches have aviation. I knew I was intrigued with flying and wanted to be a pilot in the military. That was always a goal to some level. The Coast Guard has a wide range of aircraft. And I've been able to become qualified in many of them, from the C-130, which is a large patrol plane, to the H-65 Dolphin helicopter, to H-60s, which are large, heavy helicopters. I've been qualified in all of them. And right now I command an air unit up in Traverse City, Michigan. Okay. So to be entrusted with the responsibility to commit American Coast Guard forces to those missions is a major highlight of my career. I'm honored to do that. As a pilot in Coast Guard, you actually go through Pensacola, the same flight school that the Navy and the Marine Corps go through, and it's just a great time. So.
Okay. And you do that directly out of Kings Point?
I did. I went to flight school about a year later. There was a wait, and so I was stashed in a staff job, and then served on a cutter briefly, then went to flight school.
Okay, so tremendous.
I've been flying ever since.
Now, in 2002, you were one of 13 people selected to serve as a White House Fellow. That's a pretty spectacular honor. How did that all come about, and what role did you serve in that position?
Well, I actually found out about the White House Fellows program here at Kings Point. The first Kings Point alum who was a White House Fellow, Meredith Nizer, we had interacted with her, I think, in my fourth or third class year, so my freshman or sophomore year, and I was just really inspired by the program. I also read Colin Powell's book, and he was a White House Fellow and spoke very highly of it. So I got to a point in my career where I'd been very involved in causes outside of work. Beyond working very hard in my job as an officer, I care a lot about causes that impact kids from single-parent homes. And there was a point at which I had done a lot of community service. There were things I wanted to see our society evolve with, and I had a good run as a military officer, where mentors had told me, hey, you should give that a shot, you should look at it. And I remember thinking back to my time at Kings Point and seeing Meredith talk about her fellowship, and decided to give it a whirl. And I did, and I went through a very grueling selection process, which requires a lot of luck. Any former White House Fellow that tells you there's not luck involved being candid with you. There's a lot of luck, and I got the word that President Bush would appoint me, and that happened in 2002.
Okay. Now, what do you do as a White House fellow?
As a fellow, there's 3 components to the program. You serve as a special assistant to a cabinet officer or a White House official. In my case, it was Governor Tom Ridge.
Okay.
He was a Homeland Security advisor, so I served as his special assistant. Then you go through an education program where you travel the world and the country as a class. We went to Botswana and South America, South Africa, and all throughout the United States on education trips. So when the White House puts you on a trip, they do it right, as you can probably imagine. So you learn a great deal about many issues, from AIDS to public education to defense and national security, and that was fantastic. But probably the best part of the program is your interaction with what we call our fellows, the other participants. We had a few other military, but then we had doctors, lawyers, nonprofit professionals, and people like that. And you have to work together as a class, and you learn from each other. And they're all just truly remarkable people. So I thought that cohort, as good as the program was, that was the most significant part of it. And they are now like family and best friends to my family and I.
Okay, all right. Now, you're also a former International Affairs Fellow and a German Marshall Fellow. For those unfamiliar, including myself, what exactly is that, and what were your responsibilities in that capacity?
I pursued those programs. Those are think tank programs through the Council on Foreign Relations and the German Marshall Fund of the United States. And both of those think tanks promote open thought and kind of the great issues of our time. And my focus in both of those programs was to do research and writing on trade and security between the European Union and the United States. So those were funded, sponsored opportunities through American think tanks to look further into issues that I had worked on at the White House.
Okay. Now, where are some of the places you've been stationed over the course of your career?
I've moved a lot, and my family can tell you all about that. They've gone with me. We've had a wonderful time. I've served in Oregon, California, Florida, overseas, of course Washington D.C. a lot, Michigan now, overseas in Qatar and Iraq and Afghanistan. So I've had a good number of places to live. I spent time in Brussels and throughout Europe, Geneva. So I've just been extremely blessed.
Now, a lot of folks are under the impression that, obviously Coast Guard, Homeland Security, but as you just pointed out, a lot of individuals that serve in the Coast Guard, they do also serve overseas.
Yeah, right now we have hundreds of people who are stationed in the Middle East and the Northern Arabian Gulf who are working to protect Iraqi oil platforms, which bring in a significant portion of their government revenue to fight piracy and to train the forces of the region so that they can continue to stand up and defend for themselves. So we have opportunities in many parts of the country and many parts of the world. The European pieces of the places I've mentioned were based more for the think tanks I was involved with, but we do have billets in Europe and AFRICOM and all over the world. So the Coast Guard, you do get those opportunities as well. And if you want to focus domestically, you can do that too. So we're a great service. Okay.
Now, you return to your alma mater about 18 years later. I'm sure you've had some visits in between, but with the rank of commander, heavily decorated with a few awards. I'll name a couple here. The Defense Meritorious Service Medal, the Coast Guard Meritorious Service Medal, and the Military Outstanding Volunteer Service Medal, to name a few. Did you ever think that you would accomplish so much? You mentioned your background, being a product of a single-parent home. Did you imagine that you would ever accomplish all that you accomplished from your time here as a midshipman, going up to regimental commander, graduating cum laude, and having a phenomenal career in the Coast Guard?
Yeah, and the answer to that is no, because the key word in your question is you. And it's a really good and important question, in that there's a point in your career where there's really nothing you can do anymore. It really becomes about your team and the people who work for you. So the medals that I get to wear are more a reflection of the good and dedicated work that literally hundreds of people who have worked for me at different units have done. I'm accountable, and I've been accountable for their performance, good and bad. Fortunately, at all my units, it's turned out good. But at the end of the day, at this level, there's really, besides shaping the environment and setting conditions so that people can learn and grow, it really is in no way about me. Mm-hmm. It's about the people who work for me and my team, and being a good servant leader. And that's something that I look forward to conveying that I've learned over time tonight. So
Okay.
it's a great question.
In reference to the young people out there from all backgrounds, why should an individual accept their appointment, in your opinion, to this institution? I know you have a biased opinion, but hey, why not?
I think what I would tell young people about Kings Point and life in general is that you need to find what it is that you're passionate about, and what it is that you can wake up in the morning and say, I want to. You may not be this, but that you want to be better than anybody else at this trade or this specialty or whatever it is. If it involves leadership, if it involves the maritime industry, if it involves the military, if it involves serving our country in some way, or serving in a nonprofit, or serving in private industry, you'll grow here at Kings Point. And this is really, this school will help you find that passion, nurture that passion while giving back to your country at the same time. So I would, having had some very good options, the decision was easy for me. I chose Kings Point, and believe me, if these things could happen for me over time, trust me, they could happen for anybody. So that's what I would tell you. Choose the school. It's a wonderful opportunity.
Okay. Now, this evening, you will share some words of encouragement to our midshipmen. As the first speaker this year for the Lanier Lecture Series, what would the focus of your message be?
Tonight, I'm going to talk about three things tonight in hopes of inspiring the regiment. First, I want to give them some more information about the U.S. Coast Guard, because you truly have to understand it to serve in the maritime industry, and I think you don't always get the full picture. There's just not time. So I'm going to give them some essential things about the Coast Guard. Then I'm going to talk about leadership, and servant leadership in particular, and what that means. What it means to be a servant first and a leader second, and how that comes together for teamwork. And then I'm going to talk about the White House Fellows Program, because somewhere in that audience is our next White House Fellow, I bet. And I hope that I can inspire that person for the future. And I'm going to make myself available to the regiment at any time to help them. So.
Okay. Sounds great. Now, in reference to the Coast Guard, last but not least, this happens to be Coast Guard Month. We've been highlighting the Coast Guard, so it's just a great coincidence that you're here for this weekend. But why should a young person, one of our upperclassmen, even an underclassman, why should they take a serious hard look at the United States Coast Guard as an option upon graduation?
Well, for the same reasons I went into the Coast Guard at graduation, I would offer today, which is that there's very little time spent training. We have a very real-world, everyday mission that has to get done, and we have a broad swath of statutory responsibilities, from search and rescue to law enforcement to border security to environmental protection. If you're interested in working in those areas, then the Coast Guard is the right place for you. We're a small service. We all sort of know each other pretty well, and it's just we really care about our people. That's not to say that the other services don't, because they all have their advantages. I'm obviously biased, and I'm glad I made the decision I did.
Okay. So, Commander Spaner, absolute pleasure.
Thanks, LT. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much for your time, and most importantly, even more so for your service.
Thanks for your service.
Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And that concludes this edition of Kings Point Spotlight. For all of us in admissions, I'm Lieutenant Tyrone Broxton. Until next time, acting on verba, and go Mariners.